1, 2, 3.
We'll call to order the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, July 22nd at 4:30 p.m. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Commissioner Chair, or Chair Young,
Yes. Present.
it's Monday. Commissioner Armstrong,
I am definitely here today.
Commissioner Boley. Commissioner Cohen,
Here.
Commissioner Caldonado. He called and said he wasn't going to be able to attend today.
Okay.
Commissioner Navarro is not here. Commissioner Delatorre did call and inform us that she would not be able to be here.
Okay.
Commissioner Diaz.
Here.
Commissioner Goodman, she also called and let us know that she would not be present today. And Commissioner Lamort.
I'm here.
Great. Thank you very much. Report of the posting of the agenda?
It was posted Wednesday, July 17th, per our policies and procedures in the later afternoon.
Great. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? And are there any corrections or changes? Or can we move a motion to accept them?
I'll move to accept.
Move to accept. Charles.
Second it.
Charles. And Alan. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Is there a correspondence? I see it says none.
None today.
Still. Public comment. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address Parks and Recreation Commissions on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Each speaker can take 3 minutes for the speaking opportunity, and we'd ask you to come forward and sit in front of the mic right here and push the button on to make sure that it is lit up as green at the base. So, any speakers, please come forward. Please. Thank you. There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly Meenan, and I'm here in regards to the Palm Springs Dog Park. And I want to go over a couple points: cleanliness, health, and safety. I have made little vouchers or little leaflets for everybody. These are our 10 points, and they're pretty detailed. In the back, I only made enough copies. I have thousands. But I just want to showcase how many people go to the dog park in 1 hour. So that's how many copies I made. So those are of 1 hour at the Palm Springs Dog Park in the morning. In the back are pictures of every other dog park in the Coachella Valley and then Palm Springs Dog Park. So I will pass these around. Our dog park is not up to par with Coachella Valley at all. We do not have a dog fountain that is, it's very embarrassing. I know somebody in here has a dog. I've never seen anybody, at the dog park. I may have seen you, but I would love somebody to actually study the dog park, understand how many visitors we get in comparison to the other Coachella Valley dog parks. We are dog friendly. The Kipton Rowan, invites dogs to stay there. You can't walk down Palm Canyon Drive and not have a store that doesn't offer water to the dogs, or in the menus, to offer something for the dogs. And for us to have one of the worst, if not the worst, besides Cat City, dog park is an embarrassment. And we are now having, a new strand of parvo based out of the Coachella Valley, and that's from Banning Veterinarian Hospital. I sit there and I watch on my days off, for the maintenance people that never show up. And on my mobile, which is over there, we have an app that says Palm Springs at your service. And if I just scroll down to show you how many times I've said the the bags are empty, or the rocks are so bad, number one, for the dogs, they're very sharp on the edges, and the weed covering from the ground is actually coming up, and my dog is eating it. This is my dog. I know everybody has loved a dog or has a dog, and I'm just asking for attention, the proper resources to be sent to Palm Springs. I mean, for us not to even offer an indoor dog park is an embarrassment. I mean, there are
Thank
other
you.
cities. Yeah, my
Thank you. Your
time's up.
time is up, but we've heard you absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Still green. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Eric Cheel, and I'm representing 1PS, Organized Neighborhoods of Palm Springs. For those who might not know, 1PS is a 501c4 nonprofit public benefit organization, and we are made up of the leadership of 47 organized neighborhoods in this city. And I am the communications officer for 1PS, as well as the creative director and author of this publication, the 1PS Guide to Palm Springs Neighborhoods. This guide is the flagship publication of 1PS, and at its core are the stories of our 47 and counting neighborhoods in the city. It tells their history, their culture, their sites and destinations, their proclivities and their curiosities. And today I am pleased to provide each of you your copy. And I know Commissioner Bowley has scooped me on this with some of you, but for those that he didn't, I'll leave that there. So now you will each have one. It's been just under 3 years since the first edition, this is now the third edition, was published. And with each of the 3 issues, this publication becomes more of a city magazine that's specific to Palm Springs. And I need to borrow one of that, please. I'd like to call your attention specifically to the spread on pages 14 and 15. This is a new feature that we've added with this issue called Our Neighborhood Parks. Now, with only 2 pages available to you, you can't go into adequate detail about all of the public green spaces. But what we did was we took an inventory of what each park has that the others don't, or what each park has that it does better than the others, and highlighted that, and then highlighted the neighborhoods that have the greatest adjacency to it. It is a great introduction, whether you're new to the city or whether you just kind of stick to your corner. It's a great introduction to all of the parks and to whet newcomers' appetites about these amenities here. There are so many other features in this publication. I'll allow you to discover them yourselves, but I would like to make this appeal, please. And that is, please review this publication, and if you agree that it can hold some value, that it can help this commission achieve its goals, then please keep this visible, refer to it, refer people to it, and if you have other people or other organizations in your circles for which you think there would be interest, then please let me know, and I'll get you adequate copies to distribute to them at no cost. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Eric. And do we have any other guest speakers? I guess not. Thank you very much. David is not joining us today, or Marcus. Okay, no city manager comments. On to the main body of the meeting. First discussion item is on trails signage update, and we're looking for a recommendation and to direct staff.
So Patrick Tellerico, our, where'd he go? There he goes. He's going to come and talk to us about this item. He is our sustainability manager.
Thank you for joining us, Patrick.
Hi, thanks. So as some of you may be aware, it was brought to our attention earlier this year that there were dogs on our trails. And one of the conditions of the Coachella Valley Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan is that we prohibit dogs on trails to protect bighorn sheep. And so this year we had some fairly startling evidence. All of the other locations in the valley have posted signage and have some sort of programs to educate people about dogs on trails and prohibiting them. And we are the only ones that don't. And actually, all the other parts of the valley ended up having fairly successful lambing seasons this year, and ours yielded nothing. And so we had 3 that were born apparently, but I think they all died. And so anyway, so we are trying to come into compliance with the plan and post some signage to prohibit dogs on the trails. And so we've got about 6 locations that we've identified at the trailheads where we've got some existing signage that we will add a couple signs to. One is an educational sign on the bighorn sheep and their habitat. The other one is a no dogs allowed sign, and it refers people to the habitat plan for more information. So these are the 2 signs that we're planning on posting, and I'm happy to get you more information on the locations, but it's primarily like the north and south lichen trails, the trail next to the museum, and the ones that people frequent most often here in town. So any questions about that, or
Commissioner Lamar?
need for more?
Are you going to post them both together so people
Yeah.
understand the importance of why they can't take their pup with them?
Exactly. And so we, I think for each one of the signs, we've got either an existing post that we're going to utilize, so it'll be one under the other. And I think they're all that way. So yeah, they'll all be posted together. Yeah.
Commissioner Diaz?
Excuse my ignorance. So the lambs they're saying didn't survive because there are dogs on the trail?
So the reason that dogs are prohibited on the trail are because, number one, they make the lambs in particular more used to seeing dog-like creatures, and so the coyotes are their natural enemy. So they get used to the coyotes, and so they're not afraid of them. And so that's one of the reasons. And then vectors are the other reasons. So diseases that dogs promote while on the trail. So the combination of those 2 things, they don't really quite understand why those lambs in particular died, but they have a feeling that contributed to it. So
Who's they?
there is a conservation group that kind of monitors this stuff. That it's also monitored through CVAG. They also do monitoring of the implementation of the plan. So.
Commissioner Cohen?
I probably do more hiking than most of the other commissioners around on the trails, probably almost every day, especially during the cooler weather.
Great.
And I'd love to chat with you maybe offline, but I can help you understand what are probably the more popular trails and trailheads and other places that you may not think of, that those signs could be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I was actually just looking at the plan again, and there are several trails that are listed in there that I've either never heard of, or honestly, they might be actually behind a lot of the trails that we normally see. So that would be great.
Be glad to help you with that. And also, Jody, one of the things, and I don't know who tracks this, but we've been told from the folks who have been trying to publicize to get the word out to please be careful with having dogs on the trails, that it just stresses the wildlife. They smell and they see the dogs, and that alone can stress the animals to not necessarily be able to take care of their young or other things, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure they know either.
What surprises me is I just read a big article about, and pictures of them standing on PGA West golf course eating grass and doing whatever. So I find it interesting that a dog, I understand why, and I'm not like pro dog and I want them on the trails. I'm just trying to figure out in my mind how that's all happening. That's all. I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
That's all.
Good questions.
I
Commissioner
know we
Wiley?
talked about this a month or so ago that you've been working on this. When I first see that, no dogs allowed on trail. My dog's out in the woods, he's not on the trail. Is that gonna be a problem? Some people interpret it wrong and they wanna argue about it. My dog's running through the woods, he's not on the trail.
Well,
Versus
don't-
Hillside? Versus Hillside?
Oh, okay. So these are just going to be posted on the trails themselves, and so that's where our focus will be. So I don't know that we're going to expand it to any other places. Yeah.
The other thing, I'm going to get asked the question, so I might as well ask it now. I'm not sure you'll have an answer for it. But what happens if people see dogs on the trails despite the signs posted, or you want to report that there are people who are every day taking their same dogs on the trail and just ignoring it? Is there any method or any way of asking for somebody to enforce?
So that's another component of this that we haven't talked about much yet, is the enforcement component and education component. And I know that there are folks who are interested in talking more about that, so I'm sure that we will have some further conversations about that. However, it does lead to the question of whether or not there will be an ordinance to support this effort. And so we've talked a little bit about that, and would be potentially a minor modification to our ordinance language that would add just a statement about prohibiting dogs in the Santa Rosa and San Jacinto Mountain areas. And so we may add that so that there is a little bit more teeth to it. So anyway, so we're happy to work on ideas for enforcement and education.
By the way, the other thing too, as far as education, that we try to tell people, it's not just for the sheep, particularly the adult sheep, are not that much in danger from the dogs, the males. The dogs are in danger from the sheep. If a dog, and we've seen dogs get loose and take off after the sheep, the adult males will kill
Right.
the dog in a matter of seconds. We've watched the adult males do what they normally do. They will butt open a mature cactus to break it open and get the water from it. We watch them during mating season, cracked horns together.
Right.
They will kill a dog in a matter of seconds. So it's not just for the
That's a great point.
lambs, the sheep.
Commissioner Armstrong?
Well, I am pro-dog.
I am pro-dog, not necessarily on the trail.
So you have probably heard public comment. A resident of Palm Springs gave an impassioned speech about our dog park and how overcrowded it is, and she got 140 signatures in a few minutes, apparently. So first question, does sustainability then have a recommendation for other on or off-leash recreation opportunities to go along with this? Because this is a big change, and people are going to be really upset about it. What has the commission discussed other places? Or is this just, we're going to eliminate this option for the residents and the dogs of Palm Springs?
Right. So that's an interesting question, and in my conversations with CVAG, they're actually coming up with a list of dog-friendly trails. And so what we'd like to do is publish that information along with the information about the signage. So yes, and there are a couple of trails actually in the area that have been designated as open for dogs. And so, for instance, the end of the Garston Trail up near, what is that? It's in South Palm Springs. But there is a section there that is designated for dogs. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't seen the signs, but I don't know if you made all those signs, but maybe those options, just like we have in the parks, are encouraging people to go to the dog park so that when people see that, they know they have an alternative. I do remember not that long ago, I think the city measured J money to put dog bags at some of these trailheads.
Right. So there's a lot of mixed messages at those locations. So what we're planning to do is actually use those dog waste stations as the signage posts for these signs. So we'll take that message away. And then there was actually also one sign on one of or next to one of the kiosks about dogs as well that was also fairly confusing. So we're going to remove that one too.
So the dog bags will be removed from there, and Measure J has been informed that this is happening.
And then I do have, actually, maybe, I think it's Commissioner Cohen. Didn't, like a year ago, we have a group come talk, a hiking group, and they were making these statements about sheep. And the city, or the commission seemed receptive to that. Basically, they were saying, there's no problem. Don't worry, we want to increase trails. We want to take over more of the maintenance of the trails. So do you know anything about that? Because we had testimony here that everything is fine.
Well, CVAG and some of the others are the ones who are doing most of it. And then it's a mishmash of ownership and maintenance. Some of it is done by the equestrian club, some of it is done by is allowed only by permission with the tribes and others. So there's a patchwork to this that is an overlay to what the city has either authority or the ability to do. I would say that everything tends to work. People tend to be respectful. There's very few people who may cause some issues, but it's not a crying problem. Seeing a lot of dogs, though, we see them all the time, and to the point where it's a problem sometimes for other hikers, especially the ones who aren't kept on leash. And it is a problem, especially when we see dozens of sheep and the dogs sometimes going after them. So I don't know the answer to it, and there ought to be a good place, but I'm not sure that if you told people, well, you can go to a dog park, that's going to be changing their minds whether they're bringing their dog on a hike or not. I think education is the first thing, just to let people know why it could be an issue. And just for the record, too, I believe, if I'm correct, Charlie has taken over the subcommittee on hiking because I didn't want to have any kind of a conflict of interest with the hiking business that we do.
Right, but I think you're making an important point. You know, I would be really dubious unless people are scientists here making a connection between the dogs and the deaths of these 3 lambs. Our trails in Palm Springs are so much more busy and popular than anywhere else, and so, you know, humans are culpable in this too. So we need to, when you guys are discussing this isn't just a problem with the dogs.
There. With the removal of the bags from the places that they shouldn't be bringing their dogs, have we thought about moving them to the places where dogs are allowed so that the message is a little bit clearer? And it seems like that might be a good use, because
Yeah, that's a good point.
otherwise we're messing up another part of the hillside, so.
You know, there is also another piece of this that is not lovely to talk about, but I'll just put it out there. With the bags out there and with people taking their dogs, it's pretty routine to see used bags littering the trails. And people will pick up the waste and put it into the bag and then leave the bags on the trails. Other hikers are being good enough to sometimes pick it up and remove it and do things, but it's become a problem. And sometimes they don't use bags at all, and that's a problem too. But there's all kinds of problems that are out there. It's just not a good idea. And the one that gets missed most of the time is it's a real danger to a lot of the dogs. And a lot of times we see little dogs that shouldn't be on the hiking trails, especially the bigger ones and when it's hotter out. And people haven't brought water for the dogs, and we stop them and we say to them, you know, we ask them if they have water and those kind of things for their dogs. So the big issue is going to be like we've seen in other parks and other things. Even when we try nicely to educate people, especially if they don't like to hear even a kind education, who do you talk to? They say, you know, but who are you and what are you talking about?
Right.
And we just can't say anything if there's no enforcement, no ordinance.
Right.
I guess my only last question is, do we have documentation on what is city, what is tribal, and what is county? Because that seems confusing, and we don't want to overstep any authority that we might have or not have relative to that. So that does
Yeah,
worry
that's-
me that they're not clearly marked and mapped so that we knew what were actually the areas that we are responsible for, if you will.
Right. That's so. I personally do not know that, but I know that it's a complicated mixture. The ones that are tribal are fairly well marked, like Tahquitz Canyon is clearly marked and gated, and Indian Canyon. The ones that are multi-jurisdictional in terms of federal versus local, those are a little less clear in terms of where the boundaries begin and end. So we can check that out, and that'll be part of those conversations around education, awareness, and enforcement.
It's even more complicated than anybody really understands. They've traded lands in the last year or
Yeah.
two. They've done some swaps and other things. So somebody has the map, and I just don't know who it is, but we could figure it out. But I believe the city owns the trailheads,
Yes.
so I don't think
Yeah, and
that's an
the
issue.
Parks and Rec is basically responsible for the signage.
And
there, so that's
trailhead
fine.
means the beginning of?
Yes.
The street, the
Entry
beginning
to-
of, yes.
Okay, perfect. Commissioner
Well, I'm
Lamar?
just wondering if another deterrent could be, do we have one of those temperature machines where you take where you.
Shoot it at the ground.
You shoot it at the roadway and it's 150 degrees and the pups are walking on the road. In the summertime, might that be a deterrent that if we do say, no, wait a minute, these trails in the summertime are 120 degrees on your dog's feet? That might be a deterrent.
People aren't hiking that much in the summer, honestly. This
Yeah.
is really,
Just crazy me?
yeah, well, there are people who do hike in the summer, but it's not that big a deal in the summer. It's really in the fall and winter and
Not
spring.
much of a deterrent then.
Yeah.
So if there are no further questions, are you looking for direction from us? I think based on Commissioner Armstrong's questions, we may not be quite there with these signs. So I'm not sure if,
So basically, this was just a presentation on behalf of the Sustainability Commission on what's going to be happening with these signs. These are going to go up. I need to figure out how to change some of this verbiage. I think for a long time, this was just standard language that Vicky used to have on there. So hopefully by the next time we meet, we will have that figured out. But at this point, it's just basically for your information, this is happening just in case you get any questions.
and if
But I like
anybody.
the additional suggestions too. We'll
Okay,
take that
great.
into
I think
consideration.
that's important that
Yep.
you're taking that into consideration.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing this,
Thanks.
Patrick.
Sure.
Did you bring your battery bags with you?
My only complaint about those would be they're really kind of small. I've already filled out a 3-pound coffee thing that I need to carry over. I think I'm on my third one, so.
We're hoping that people have gotten rid of their stored stuff and that will be a more regular and routine activity, so.
Thank you. Discussion on Measure J ad hoc subcommittee report, recommendation, so staff?
Okay, first, the subcommittee was planning their meeting with Dr. Ruddy, and prior to our meeting, May 23rd, was the Measure J Council joint meeting. At that meeting, we received the $1.6 million for our bathrooms through Measure J, and the council has approved it. Finally, on the 3rd of June, we had our meeting with Dr. Ruddy, and we kind of wanted to go through with the meeting to make sure that something didn't happen like previous years, there was any caveats or stipulations to it. At the meeting with Dr. Reddy, we had Cynthia, Marcus, Fuller, Dr. Reddy, Les, Johnny, David, and myself. Ellen was not able to join us that day, but during that, we asked, and he assured us that that money is there. The bids have been issued for for the bathrooms. The park bathrooms problem comes down, we didn't get the money that we had hoped for the new bathrooms at James O'Jesse, at the dog park, and at the Francis Stevens. When we presented that to Dr. Reddy and Marcus, they were kind of like, oh, I don't know that anyone had told them yet. We don't have bathrooms in those three parks. Exterior bathrooms in those three parks. So he felt that the 1.6 million should be enough to do Ruth Hardy, Victoria, and Demuth, and then have some money left over to begin construction on the others. We'll see. We did ask that they keep us enlightened as they go through the bidding process and the construction, what's happening and how it is going along. So we're going to be watching on that. Measure J at the same time also set aside an additional $2 million for our downtown park. That park was at 7.5, I believe, and so that makes it up into 9.5 million, somewhere in that area. David then went on to say, any money left over when they come in under budget, we can have. Yeah, that's how we kind of felt too. An additional $100,000 was given to the Parks and Recreation for the recreation field lighting upgrades. I don't know what that's gonna do as much as,
So basically, those dollars are basically just going to be used to do the study on what type of system is going to be and tell us what it's going to cost us to probably move from the metal halides to an LED system that that'll be more current for us. But it pays for all of that work to be done and render a final price to get everything
So we got
done.
the 100,000 in there for that. I think the good news came down when we looked at it. Measure J brought in 2016, 13.3 million. And this year, it brought in 15.5 million. So it came up, and it's projected next year to bring in 16.1, or this year, next year, where we're into, to bring in 16.1. They awarded 12.2. So there's a little bit of extra money when things do go away that we might be able to get. As a committee, I think we have a better understanding of how to get money through Measure J, because it was pretty much that day when talking with them, ask us, tell us what you want. When you work with the Measure J, it seems like the staff put together a listing. This is what we want. And then Measure J discussed each one of those items, and they didn't accept everything that the staff asked for. For example, the staff asked for $1 million for the Plaza Theater. They threw that out, and they put that $1 million someplace else. So they get a little bit of leeway in that also. But Dr. Reddy said if we ask them, and we have Jeff as our liaison to work with that, and Cynthia, when we come up with something we want to do, if we ask them, we have a better example or chance of what we can get. The pickleball courts at Sunrise seems to be a dead issue from what we learned that day. And I think that was pretty much, last time at the meeting in public comment, because of the way public comment's structured, we weren't allowed to address them, but one of the comments was they needed bathrooms at James O. Jesse, and could we start talking? Les and I met with
Jarvis.
Travis up
Jarvis.
there, Jarvis
Jarvis.
up there,
Yeah.
and have already looked at a couple locations, things. So things are being talked about up there and worked on when we can get the money put together. So that is another subject that we're looking at, getting a bathroom up there, because they're kind of out in the cold after 5 o'clock up there also. Does anyone else that was on the committee have anything that they wanted to add to it?
The only thing I'll add, thank you, that was a great report, is that I believe David Reddy and Councilman Coors had agreed that they would meet with us regularly.
Quarterly.
On a quarterly basis, either come to one of these meetings or have a separate meeting with us, just to make sure that we don't miss one another with what we're working on and what they're also strategically working on and looking for funding, so that when time comes ultimately to find funding for something a lot of work has been done on, we're not just beginning a conversation.
That's a good point. And I thought maybe we wanted to kind of put things together on a quarterly basis when we want to have them, and group items together that we want to talk to them about. I had that messed down, forgot it.
Okay. One of the things, tying 2 into 4, which is the James O. Jesse restroom, I would like to ask if the subcommittee could go back to Measure J and request specifically for James O. Jesse and the dog park, because these are 2 places that when people are there, if City Hall's open, then there's some opportunity, although frankly, to take a dog from the park, the only way into the restrooms is to come around the side of the building and come underneath and go in. There isn't a direct line to the park, and it's the restrooms that are right outside this office that are the restrooms here at City Hall. So that is really not, it's not convenient, and I really think you can't leave your dog there and leave. Do you bring your dog with? What's the whole thought process there? So I would hope that we could, all 3 of those places are extremely important, but I think the human factor at James O. Jesse is important. Again, on a Sunday, if there's a picnic, your choices are the bushes or go home, because there is no facility there. I wouldn't even mind if looking at the Francis Stevens, if there was some sort of a negotiation to figure a way to open up those, because they are exterior bathrooms. I can imagine what the thoughts would be on that, but that one I'm willing to lay a little bit low on, but I got to tell you, the dog park, I don't think it's fair, and James O. Jesse. So if the subcommittee could go back and plead, beg, show pictures of whatever it takes to get the money, I think it would be worth it, the energy, and I would help out. Commissioner Diaz?
And I was just gonna add, if they said, tell us what you need, we need that to happen. I of course, I was on the subcommittee with the bathrooms, Charlie, myself, and Miguel. We got all that stuff pulled together. And updating restrooms are important, but when there are no restrooms, I think that should take priority over updating something that is existing and working. So that's my
Absolutely.
2 cents.
Commissioner Lamort, did you?
Well, you mentioned it, so I want to bring up pickleball at Sunrise Park. Was that dependent upon Measure J money? Is the idea of having a park, pickleballs in Sunrise, is that idea still open, just waiting for the money? Or are we saying Measure J said no, and so therefore it's out of the picture?
Money.
But I did get the impression that if we were to ask for more courts in Demuth, that might be something that would be, able to happen. And I don't know that it couldn't happen at Sunrise at a later point, but I think they were kind of looking at the pot of money and thinking, it's not going to cover everything that everybody's asking for. I think there is a tension on parks this year, and my thought would be, let's ask for every penny that we can get to help our parks, because we talk about world-class parks, but then if you can't use the restrooms and they're not safe, that's not part of being world-class.
I
Commissioner
think,
Bowley?
Charlie, I got a feeling from them that pickleball players don't really want to go to Sunrise Park and play. They would like to keep everything in Demuth. Did you all get that feeling from David and Marcus in the meeting?
I didn't, and I'd actually also like to mention that when we had the gentleman speak at the public comment, so we couldn't comment on it, who was from the Palm Springs Pickleball Association, the new 501c3, I wanted to be respectful, but he did not speak for any particular community. They have 0 members and they've done 0 polling. So Les, when you had asked him specifically about what he thought, speaking as a representative of the community, that really wasn't representative of the community. And I think the real answer is people will play wherever there are good facilities and quality facilities. Demuth is the best that we have with all of the problems, and we do know there's problems there with next to being the wastewater treatment plant and insects and smell and lighting and other things, but it's the best that is here. And then Commissioner Goodman also has an idea that making that portion of Sunrise Park more active could actually increase safety and some other issues in the neighborhood. So the idea of trying to find a use for that land, I think, is one that should stay on the table, but I'm not sure where to prioritize it. And I do think, as Commissioner Lamort is asking, I do think it comes down to money, but I don't think we should end the conversation on it.
I agree with that, because one of the justifications for giving tennis only at Ruth Hardy was that we were going to build more pickleball in Sunrise Park. And now you're saying, no, that's not going to happen because we haven't found the money yet. I think that some of the pickleball players are still expecting it to happen.
But they
So-
kind of acted like they all want to stay together.
That was that last guy that was here.
Well, that came out of David's. I was hearing a little bit, they kind of like want to stay together, and he was that. So I'm lost on, do they want to? I think Charlie's right, they'll play any place.
But they need more facilities, because even though we've added that last set of 4, it's not enough. And I frankly think, at least another 8 within, it will probably take us a year to get them built, but at least another 8, if not 12, is really what it's going to take. Because you start to look at those groups and they're expanding and they're teaching lessons in other communities. They've been in our community teaching lessons at Four Seasons. There are, I think, 2 courts there and 2 or 3 courts, and they're playing, and people are starting to be developed. And we're developing them at the indoor court, at the indoor classes. So, they're getting closer to being ready to come out into playing in with people. But there's only, 12 spots there. And I grant you, they're not all busy at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it's 120 degrees, just like the tennis courts. But I've been by there at 7:30 in the morning, and they're filled, and people are waiting in line. So
Would you think, he did say one thing over and over in that meeting that I kind of remember was, we should go, when we have questions and all, we should funnel them to Cynthia, because she is our person that takes the things to the staff. Should we put this bathroom at James O'Jesse on a meeting where we have Dr. Reddy and Councilman Kors in attendance in our meeting to discuss it with us?
So I think those items would be really key to bring when they come to our quarterly meetings. I think it would be easiest for us to invite them to our already standing commission meetings because their schedules are so busy. But yes.
Okay.
Could I suggest that, I believe we take a hiatus for August, am I correct?
Yeah.
So could I suggest that September could be a good time to invite them to a quarterly meeting, and that we make sure we have on the agenda for that meeting discussion of the public parks that are lacking any exterior facilities?
And maybe what we want to do is try to have it as the first two items so that they can spot it and they don't have to necessarily stay unless they can for the whole committee, the whole meeting.
And so can I have you repeat what you would like them to discuss or what you would like to discuss with them?
I think under the heading of, just to talk about urgency, captioning it as the city parks or facilities that have no access to public restrooms, exterior public restrooms, if you need to talk about it that way. And then you could list them at James O'Jesse, Francis Stephen Park, and the dog park.
So I will just leave it open so that if there's another area you would also like to discuss. So we will just name it City Parks Facilities Without Access to Restrooms.
Thank you. Commissioner Armstrong?
So I'm a little confused. This is a quarterly meeting of a committee we're talking about? Or here?
So the city manager and our councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Kors, after the Measure J subcommittee met with them, they did offer to come to meet quarterly either with the committee or at the Parks Commission to just kind of give an update or just discuss whatever concerns the commission did have, just to continue to have open communication and so that the commission wouldn't feel like we just fell behind and our issues aren't being addressed.
So are we talking, though, about a subcommittee meeting, or they're going to come here?
They're going to come here so they can address the committee as a whole.
Commission?
Yeah, at
Just
least
the
initially,
commission.
all the
Yes.
commission. Now, if it turns out to be that we need a working meeting, then I think the chair at that time could create a subcommittee that would get together with them. That'd be fine. But I think if we could, for the first time, have them understand the passion that we have for getting a bathroom at James O'Jesse and the dog park and Francis Stevens.
And maybe one of the things we can do is invite David quarterly and meet with Mayor Pro Tem Kors quarterly off
Yeah.
a different, so we have more communication
Coverage.
going.
Absolutely. Does that work for everybody? Great, thank you. Discussion on Prop 68 grant update.
So this morning, I emailed the staff report that will be going to council on Wednesday. And it's basically just to give an update of where we are in the process. As you know, we held our 5 community meetings, 2 at James O'Jesse on June 18th, 2 at Vista Del Monte Elementary on June 25th, and at the actual site on June 29th. From all of that, we gathered all of the community's input, and Chris Giannini, who is the landscape architect, he designed the park based off of all of the community feedback. So if you go to, does anybody need a copy of the staff report? Okay, let me get that to you.
Bring two.
Did you want to provide a magnifying glass? Oh, very good.
Do you want a copy? So if you will turn to page 6, you will get the final rendering of what the architect put together based off of the community's input from all 5 meetings that we hosted. On page 7, it goes over the actual final conceptual design, so if you don't have the magnifying glass, you can look down through this list. So in that plan, you're gonna see that there's a large play lawn area for a multipurpose field. This is about the size of 2 acres. We have concrete sidewalk which goes around that multipurpose field. It will have security lighting, bench seating, and shade area. It will have a 6-foot wall for windscreen. There'll be safety fencing. There'll be a splash pad at this park. You will have picnic shelters with security lighting and picnic tables and barbecues. There'll be a parking lot with about 22 regular stalls, and 2 of those stalls will be ADA. There will also be security lighting and security gating there. There's space for a monument sign. The park hasn't, the working title is just Whitewater Park. That's not essentially going to be the name of the park. So once we get to, well, if we get awarded, we can start discussing what the naming options are and really connect with the community there to see what they would like to do with the naming. And it gives us time to come up with a process on what that process is going to look like to get that park named. You'll see that there's a small skate plaza. It will have seats. There will be skate features, fencing, and shade trees there. There will be 2 dog parks, one for large dogs and one for small dogs. There will be concrete walkways, bench seating and shade, natural turf for dogs. There'll be drinking fountains, and that'll have gated entry. There'll be fitness stations that'll be covered by the shades trees to give it some natural shading. And then the central plaza where you'll find the restroom buildings, more drinking fountains, bottle fillers, bike racks, shade trees, security lighting, accent pavings, more tables, benches, bench seating, and then raised planters. And there'll be 2 play structures at the park. One will accommodate ages 2 through 5, and the other will accommodate ages 5 through 12. There will also be shade and security lighting there by the structures. So I know it's kind of small to see, but I can definitely email you the copy where you can zoom in and out of so you can get a better idea of where things are placed.
And if you go online, you can do it as well.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I know it's kind of late. Someone has come to me and said, you know, I look at this picture and at the bottom right-hand corner, looks like a little lawn that isn't designated large or small dog park. They're wondering if it's a possibility that we might include an urban garden space like they have at Demuth Park where people could plant tomatoes or vegetables.
So they do have a garden space. I just don't, it is located more towards, and I'll have to really take a look at it, but they did allocate some type of gardening area. Where is it? Sorry. And I want to say it's probably going to be more towards the Central Plaza area. But I will locate that for you and I will send it to you in an email so you can see where it's at.
That's perfect. I'll just let them know.
One of the questions I had is, could we start to make dog fountains synonymous with fountains, period, so that any place that fountains appear, because that's one of the real missing things, like through Ruth Hardy Park and the Wellness Park, for us as you walk around, there just is nothing, and we've had a problem here at the park where water's being left for extended periods of time, and then there's illness associated with that.
So I can work with Stacy on trying to get those items into the budget for next year, but each one of those dog fountains or multi-use fountains are about $4,000 and above. So they tend to be a little pricey, but we can definitely work on trying to incorporate them more as we go.
And they tend not to hold water. You have to kind of fill it and hold it while it's filling in your dog. Okay, good, because that's the other thing, is just water sitting there goes bad quickly.
And is this going to go before council on Wednesday, or
Yes.
is it going to be like a consent calendar?
I want to say, I think it's consent, but if they pull it, I do have a PowerPoint ready to go to basically showcase the meetings and show pictures of the community participating, showcasing what the park looks like, and, really walking them through basically what I did this evening with you guys. If you look at the end of the report, you'll see that the price for this park comes out to just under the 8.5 million max that we can be awarded for the grant, so we made it.
Perfect.
You shopped well.
So now just cross our fingers so we can be awarded this park, because I think this is going to be an awesome project for the community there.
Commissioner Armstrong?
Well, first of all, when this first brought up, I was kind of skeptical of the whole thing and these community listening meetings, but I went to a couple of them. I want to tell everyone how wonderful you were leading those meetings. It was just amazing watching you engage the community, and I felt it was a real model for going forward, because people were engaged. The consultants we used were really good, and listening, and it was just a really good experience watching the whole thing happen. So I thought you were really just amazing up there. It was really cool
Thank
to
you.
watch, because a lot of times there's meetings and are we really listening to people? I do think it's interesting. I'm thinking about Miguel, who talked about doing surveys and outreach to the community to find out what they really want. Obviously, this was a certain part of the community or part of town, But if you look at these, it's interesting what people wanted, You don't really see pickleball on here at all. At least certainly not in that community. So that's something we have to remember too. When we're outreaching to different communities, But I really thought it was a great meetings.
And I'll have to share with the commission, I did talk to my previous city where I was coming from, and they took a completely different approach than what we did here. They actually did the surveys. And now looking at, what we've done and what they did, I think this was definitely the best route to go, because we connected directly with the community and got to hear, their concerns and their wants, and, seeing the kids be so excited that a park might be coming was really, really neat. And it just makes you appreciate the process so much more than just handing out that survey, so.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. I think you had mentioned before that this is adjacent to where the new CV Link is going to be coming?
Yes, it will have a CV Link connection.
So I don't know what they would need or what that would mean, but in the meetings, did any of that come up? Do they just need
Yes, we
bike
actually did have a
racks
CV
or-
Link representative. I think the two meetings when we were at the elementary school, and they did pass out information. But the CV Link connection will be at the corner tip of our triangle here. And so our visitor here, Mr. Crawford, he was talking about how he, and it's not just Dieter who was excited about the CV Link and, all that's going to bring, but several members of the community were just so excited that this park would be connected to the CV Link that would allow them to be able to hit other areas within the city or other cities, with either walking trails or bikes or, what have you.
Excellent. Commissioner Bowley, did you?
Well, David asked the question I was going to ask about CV Link, but I do want to reiterate what Travis said about the way you presented this. That's all I heard from people that attended the meetings, was they were so impressed with the way you just captivated them. So good job, lady.
Thank you. I love my job and I love the community, and I'm really lucky to be here. So thank you.
Appreciate it. The one thing I would ask any of the commissioners is if you're available on Wednesday night, if this is coming forward, and I will say occasionally things get pulled and don't get discussed, so don't be mad at me if you show up and that happens, but if you could come Wednesday night and since it would be on the agenda, you could speak at the front end just about your support for it, it would be great. It's an opportunity to be known as a commissioner and that you are looking out for this kind of stuff, so thank you.
And I would like to, Mr. Crawford, I think you should be there as well. You have a great influence on what goes on. I'm sure you found out through districting. So I would encourage you to come to that as well.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to discussion on maintenance issues at Ruth Hardy Park.
So the commission wanted this to be on the agenda. Obviously, we know there was the vandalism in the restrooms that Stacy is working on replacing. I did get a few emails about water fountains not working at Ruth Hardy Park. From my understanding, 3 of them are back up and running. One of them is still questionable. But aside from that, we don't really have anything unless there's something that you guys want to discuss.
The only thing I've noticed is lately and this happens every year, I don't quite understand it. There are large sections of dead lawn. They come back when the weather's right, but I just don't understand why. Is it it's seed? Because I would say a third of it is dead in the largest park on the side, and they're planting trees. Today they were putting trees in, which I think is great, but I know that people are really offended by the dead lawn and why it only happens in sections, and the next section over can be beautiful. So if Stacy can figure out, if it's grubs or something, but grubs a lot of times will actually just infiltrate it, and you can actually peel it back, because we've had raccoons roll the stuff to get the grubs. So it's kind of interesting, but
There's winter grass and summer grass, though, so sometimes it has to be overseeded to have summer grass.
we thought that would have happened though already, and parts of it are absolutely beautiful, but that's the piece.
Yeah,
that's-
and some of it can also be just the irrigation system. It may not be reaching all the way to those areas, and since it's not getting the amount of water that it may need, it isn't surviving as well. But it will be beautiful in the winter.
There you go, Commissioner Bowley.
That's what I was gonna say, it's the irrigation system, every once in a while you get ahead, because out here in this heat, it does not take long until a section will be dead right away, so you can tell where its problem is. But we don't have someone there all the time to check it, and I think when I looked at it, it looked like irrigation problem.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving along to discussion of Demuth Dog Park update. I thought Stacy was going to be here for that. No?
She sent me her notes. Let me pull those up for you. She's a very busy lady.
Come on, February 14th is over with. She should have time for us.
All right. Sorry. I meant to print this out before I came over, but there was some lightning and our internet went out.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's what people want to do.
Can we come back to this item while I look for it?
Sure. So that moves us on to the discussion on new commissioner elections. So everybody got a copy of the nomination and election order, and so what we do is we will have nominations opened and for the chair, and then accept nominations. It doesn't say that you should do this here, but my thought would be, if somebody's accepting, if they'd like to express why they're interested, I think that'd be great. And then we'll close nominations, have that election, and then we'd accept nominations for the vice chair. I received an email from Ellen that stated that if she was nominated to be vice chair, she would accept that nomination. And I said, thank you for sending that. So, with that being said, are there any questions or issues?
No.
Yes? Oh,
I'm ready.
Commissioner Travis. I'm sorry.
Several questions. One, I'm not sure this was noticed properly. For the new commissioner elections, it doesn't say the election. But I have concerns about voting tonight. I think we should delay it until the beginning of first meeting in September at the beginning. There's an elephant in the room about Brown Act violations and serial campaigning. It makes me really uncomfortable. And I do have a question with the quorum. Is the quorum 6 people today?
So currently we have the 9 commissioners because we have 2 vacancies, so it would be half of the 9 to have your quorum.
And I think it is, it actually is 10, because Miguel has not been, although he has resigned, he's not officially off until after the election, until after the Wednesday meeting.
Okay.
So in essence, that would be 10 people, and the quorum would be 5. Plus 1. So that, it's the 6.
So I'm not comfortable moving forward until we have some clear direction. I don't think that whoever's chair should have a kind of a black shadow over their chairmanship. We only have 6 people out of a commission of 12. We're going to have 2 new commissioners coming on board. We're not meeting in August, and so it gives some time for some clarity on what's happened here. 2013, there was major problems with the commission, and there were mass resignations, a lot of drama. And I feel that the commission has overcome that, and I think the road we're going down, what's happened, is going to put a bad light on the commission. So I think it's time that we kind of step back, have anyone who wants to run for the commission chair to make a presentation what their priorities are. But like I said, I'm not going to participate in this because I do think there are some Brown Act issues. So if we proceed, I will be leaving the meeting.
I did receive a email from our city attorney today. Apparently, there was some activity going on, and I'm going to just quote our city attorney directly, as this area is not my forte. So after he had conversation with 2 different commissioners, he felt that there was no violation since he only spoke with 1 other commissioner. Maybe worth reminding them that while they speak to an individual commissioner outside of an agendized meeting, they need to be very careful not to share info that they've heard from other commissioners. So that's the message from Jeff in regards to the Brown Act violations that I guess were being questioned earlier today.
Make sure, I didn't talk to the city attorney, but I am concerned, and so if the commission is going to press ahead, I will be leaving the meeting, and I don't think you'll have a quorum. And I just can't emphasize enough, I think it's better to wait and make sure everything is done completely upright. We'll have 2 new commissioners at that time, we'll have 12 people here rather than half the commission to make this decision. It could be a decision for years, because people will do multiple terms, so.
Do we have a timeline when we have to have those positions in place?
I think the idea was to, because this is your last meeting before we come back in September, to have elections done so that come September, the new chair could take over. But this is your meeting. We are the note takers, so whatever you guys decide to do.
Well, if Travis leaves, we cannot hold an election, so he wins. And that's literally what we're doing. So based on that fact, we'll wait until the September election, and we will schedule it. I will work on the schedule. We'll schedule it during the meeting when we need to, so.
I found Stacy's email if you're ready.
I'm sorry?
I found Stacy's
I was gonna
email
say,
if
yeah, we
you're
need to
ready
get
to
back
go
to that.
back, because I don't want to leave that area uncovered.
So hang on for 1 second. Can I get a motion
I move that we elect a new head of the commission at our next meeting.
and vice chair?
And vice chair.
Okay, and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? 6-0.
I'll abstain also.
You'll abstain.
Yeah, because I don't know what the alternate is.
I don't either.
So are you?
I don't either.
Actually, could I,
I guess
since,
I'll abstain
before we do,
since I don't know what's
could I ask the question while we're in discussion? Is it worth discussing it in an open meeting? Is it something, Travis, you feel strongly about? There are commissioners here who don't know what you're talking about. So I don't know whether you want to talk about anything publicly or just move this until the September meeting. I'll leave that for your discretion.
I think I said most of what I have to say. I mean,
So all in favor, now, just so we get the count, because I wanted to understand, all in favor are 1, 2, 3, and you are abstaining, or you abstain? Okay. 3 abstentions and 3, 4. So it's 3-3. So it's unresolved. It goes to the next meeting. Great, thank you. But let's go back to item number 7. Or,
Okay,
number
so
6.
there were some questions that were asked. Okay, so I'm going to read the question and then I'll read the answer. So people not picking up their dog waste. Stacy's reply was, "We do not control the actions of the visitors of the park. Staff and contractors do have to clean up after impolite dog owners in every city park and inside all of the dog parks." And she was saying maybe the commission can help with some educational or outreach opportunities while you guys are visiting the parks. Then the other question was, oh no, where'd you go? The ground is very dry and gets pretty dusty and dirty. People don't want to take their dogs there. Stacy's response is, "We water it down twice weekly. It is dirt. It is a dirt lot. And dirt and dust are going to be the end result." The next question was, "The foxtails are dangerous and out of control during summer months." Stacy's response was, "City staff and landscape contractors perform regular sprays and maintenance for weed abatement. This is a unique weed to the desert and is removed once it is identified." And then, of course, the shade issues. And then that one is pending Common Council approval and funding was the answer.
Did we not have a discussion at one point with Stacy about DG or some sort of base that would not be dirt? I realize that that's probably not an inexpensive venture, but I kind of thought we had.
Yes, and I think we were waiting on pricing.
Okay, because maybe we could remind her that I don't live at that end and get to take the dogs there very often, but.
I'm there every
You do.
day. First off, I do yell at people if they don't pick up their waste. As I hand them a bag, I'll run to them and go, "Here," because they always go, "Oh, I don't have a bag." They're just lazy. So I try to embarrass as many people as I can. And to be honest, there aren't that many because I'm there and even I'll pick up. While I'm doing my own, I may as well, if this, I just do it because I don't want to offend people. I won't take my dogs to the large dog park. Couple reasons. Number one, it is the foxtails. Number two, it's filthy. My dogs always come back dusty and dirty. And I'm wondering if one of those temperature machines might be some way to get us to change to turf by showing that in the summertime, if I pointed at the grass, it's probably 85 degrees, and if I pointed at the dirt, it's probably 105 degrees. And so that might be the way to encourage Stacy or whomever that grass or some other ground cover might be the way to go.
I would just remind everybody that that park came out of keeping animals off the trails. And it was supposed to be sort of trail-like in nature as opposed to needing $1 million worth of grass. But it's sort of like if you can't ask dogs to be on 120 degrees. So even if we could get shading in there and it was DG, it might be better than what we've got right now because I do worry about grass, and then we end up with the same thing that we have at this park, which means it's closed 3 months out of the year, twice a year, to be reseeded with the change in grass, and then we don't have the resolution. But maybe it's time for another opportunity to talk with the public about.
I was interested in what type of feedback you're hearing since you're down there from the other users.
I see very few people use it. What they do is if they go there and they see what it is, they'll use the baseball field. Happens every day. Very few people are using the dirt field. I don't confront people with it because I'm not on that field either, so I can't say too much. But I've had my dogs in the baseball field, and someone complained to animal control, and the animal control officer came over and said, you know, I said, oh, you mean I should hook them up? Okay, I know, I'm cheating. And she goes, no, if you keep your dogs in the baseball diamond, I know they're not gonna run out in the street and get run over. I'm not even gonna bother you. So, and then we had another suggestion which was dismissed. It was probably my first week here. In other areas, in other counties and other cities, large parks like Demuth or Sunrise even, between the hours of 6 and 8 or 9 in the morning, they allow off-lead dog activity in their parks until 8 o'clock. Mainly it's because, except on the weekends, there's kids are in school. There's very few people there, and they don't see that they have a problem with it. If you've been to Mill Valley, they have a huge off-lead dog park that they have no problem with. In Santa Clara County, they do it. Up in Lake County, they do it. They just allow the park, the off-lead dog use early in the morning before the crowds show up. So that might be another suggestion, rather than coming up with a new ground cover in the large dog park, or in addition to.
So maybe during commissioners' comments, you can request that an item be added to bring back the dog chief from the police department, or whoever is doing it now. I think they've had a change in staff, so maybe we can have that reviewed again and talk about whether or not it's an ordinance issue. I think it's something that needs to be talked about, because, great. Any other issues on that? Okay, with that being said, staff report?
So I just wanted to give you an update on how many kids we have registered for both of our camps together. So we are up to about 375 kids registered for the summer. We have one more week to go. We have 43 kids that have registered for Camp Chicapoo, 38 kids that registered for swimming lessons, and all of these numbers are just so much more than what they were last year, and I expect them to continue to grow as we move forward with our programming. Our next dive-in movie will be Saturday, August 17th. We will be showing Aquaman, so I invite you to come out and come and swim in the pool while the movie is playing. It is definitely a relaxing time. Our 4 Kids Only and Pee Wee Rec program will start back up on August 12th. I've given staff a week to take some time and program what the rest of that school year will look like, so that they can make sure that they have activities planned and all their field trips planned and are organized. So the first 3 days of school, we won't actually be hosting the kids because staff will be busy planning and organizing. Let's see, we will be having our end of summer bash party for camp staff and the department on August 2nd at the swim center from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I invite you to come and attend and mingle with our camp staff, our department staff. Bring a dish. My dad should be barbecuing, hot dogs.
What's that date?
What was that?
What is the date again?
August 2nd, which will be next Friday, and that will be our end of camp. Great job, great season. See you next year. And then I wanted to invite you to James O'Jesse will be having their backpack giveaway on Thursday, August 1st from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. At that event, you will find a community health fair. I'm super tongue-tied today. I don't know what my problem is. You'll find the community health fair, health and wellness resources. I think they were planning on doing some haircuts for the kids and some braiding to help the kids get ready for school. And then we'll also be doing a backpack giveaway at Demuth Community Center on Saturday, August 3rd from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And they will be providing haircuts, food, backpacks, games, etc. that day. So I invite you all to come out for those 2 events and, really watch and engage with the community on those days.
Great. And by the way, they're accepting donations of anything in a backpack and just about anything a kid would
Any
need, so-
any school supplies, backpacks. There are drop-off boxes here at City Hall. There's some at Demuth. There's some, I think, James O'Jesse and the Leisure Center. So if you feel like giving, please come and drop off, and we will make it happen for the community.
And in some HOAs.
So what do they need? Like pens, pencils, pads of paper,
Pens, pencils,
crayons?
paper, binders.
Markers, color pencils, binders.
I thought the teachers
folders.
paid for all that.
Microphone.
There are backpacks. I did see backpacks at Walmart that are about $5 or $6.
Oh, wow.
And so we could probably do backpacks for probably under $15 with everything that they need in there. So if you're wanting to donate, we would gladly accept them.
Cool.
Just remember that it's both Demuth and James O'Jesse, so we can kind of
Yes.
spread the love. Thank you for that update.
So again, did I get it right? August 3rd was Demuth, and August 1st was James O'Jesse.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Second
Say that again?
was,
August 1st
I thought you said second.
is
I wrote
James
down second.
O'Jesse.
Is the end of summer bash.
Oh, okay.
is that at the pool?
Yes.
We're busy that weekend.
Yes. So Thursday will be James O'Jesse backpack giveaway. Friday will be the end of summer bash, and Saturday will be DCC's giveaway, backpack giveaway.
question on the 375 at camp. That is both James O'Jesse and
Combined, yes.
Combined,
And
right.
leisure. Hmm.
perfect. And did we get a lot of scholarship money for kids?
Yes, we ended up having over $5,000, probably closer to $6,000 on top of the CDBG dollars that we had. So we didn't have to turn anybody away who came forth for scholarships.
Great, great. That's wonderful. Hopefully, we're going to start advertising earlier, because I still talk to people who work in Palm Springs that have children that know nothing about it. Just
No, we plan on really kicking up our advertising this year. I did ask for $2,000 in the budget so that we could do a better job and really get our product out there.
perfect. Commissioners' comments. Commissioner Armstrong?
So we had a lot of dog issues today, and, this petition, we do need to address. There's a lot that's correct in this. I mean, it's really sad how over the last 2 years, the conditions at the dog parks over here have just deteriorated through lack of really maintenance, but also because of the use has gotten even more so. So I just want to mention that. I mean, there's things in here that are easily solved, but a lot of it comes down to actually maintenance, keeping it up, But what we're hearing tonight from the community and other people is that, we still have this issue with the recreation opportunities for dogs. The results from the community listen sessions, one of the sessions, I think Dog Park was 1 or 2, and I consistently rated high up. So I think it's time that we address this issue maybe more holistically about what are the opportunities and how can we address it, especially, when those signs go up at the trails, we're going to have a lot of irritated people.
So you're requesting that we maybe reinitiate the subcommittee at the next meeting, and
Sure.
so that we can have a group focused on, and the then chair can select that and do it. That's a great idea. Anything else, Travis? Commissioner Diaz? Commissioner Lamort?
I never say no. This is the end of my first year. First of all, I want to tell you I've had a great time. I didn't even know I wanted to be a commissioner, and I've enjoyed it greatly. I have a group of people that have to listen to me. And look at all the things we've accomplished in the last year. The restrooms and the new park alone were fantastic things that we were able to get before the council and have it happen. The other thing that we did that was wonderful was we got Cynthia. I am your biggest fan. I really love the way that you deal with the families and the kids, and I guess you call them the clients. I mean, you're perfect for the job. And lastly, I'd like to thank Les. I mean, you are the best chair I've ever been under. Now, you're the only one I've been under.
That makes it.
But I thought you were very fair. I enjoyed working with you, and good luck.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure working with all of you, and I have to say, each of you brings an expertise and an idea and different views that open my eyes up every time. I mean, that's one of the great things about having commissioners with various backgrounds is it's the opportunity to hear about hiking or hear about the passion for animals and dogs, to hear about teachers, impact on things. I know some of us have different uses for the parks, but it really is remarkable to work together, and I would say the passion here is to solve, and that's what's been remarkable in working with all of you, so I appreciate it. Mr. Cohen.
I don't have anything specifically except to pass on some thank yous to Cynthia and her staff and to Stacy and her staff from people who have come up to me and said at Demuth Park, and particularly the pickleball courts and other places, they've noticed long overdue maintenance, small items that have made huge differences for them. And they gave me an example. They said, it appears that somebody has washed the lenses in the lights, and now they can actually, it's like double the amount of light simply because somebody took the time to clean them. And it's been noticed, and I recommended to them that they send you notes directly so that they know it's not just me talking, that you're hearing from the community. But they asked me to pass that along to you, so I'm using this opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Commissioner Bowley?
Last week on Wednesday, I was at the top of the tram. I ran onto 98 campers with Rosa. That lady does a phenomenal job. Anyone to have the courage to take 98 kids up there. And I watched her, I mean, she was getting the last one on the bus when I left, making sure. She does an excellent job with those kids. It really does. The other thing I wanted to say is the City of Palm Springs has a new app that's called My Palm Springs. It was Palm Springs at Your Service. The new one is My Palm Springs. And download it at My Palm Springs. The thing about it, we had talked in our retreat that we needed a calendar, some way to get information out there. This app has a calendar of events. It has a section on the parks facilities and all of those things, but you can go to the calendar and we can get everything that's happening in the city so we can promote more of our activities that we're doing on this. And it's a great one as it starts out. I mean, you can report different infractions. Charlie, you asked about the park trails and things. There's a thing for issues like that on here to report it and all that. So it is a good one. It's called My Palm Springs, and I suggest everybody download that on your phone because it's a good one to have. That's all I have.
Great.
I missed one. Could we put on the agenda for September, talking about perhaps an ordinance issue of the dog park in Duluth? Where we had talked about perhaps allowing dogs to run free between 6 and 8 in the morning.
So just discussing dogs at Demuth Park overall, right?
Yes.
Covering, to open that up and invite.
So
And I will invite animal.
do you want to discuss that there? Because that same meeting, we will be forming the subcommittee for dog park. So in that agenda item that Travis is requesting, would that item cover all of dog parks in general or just the dog park? Travis.
I don't want to get into all the discussion, but, we talked about the off-leash a lot, and, I guess we could revisit it, but there was a lot of opposition to it, so, but I guess if they were having a subcommittee that's going to talk about opportunities, they might raise it again, but.
Sure. We can put it into that works.
Charlie, can I make a suggestion? If they're forming a subcommittee on this, wouldn't that be appropriate for the subcommittee to then have a discussion and bring it back to a
I think it would, but I think
commission
that the clarification was, we just didn't want to make sure that we weren't worried just about this dog park and then a separate item, so we can roll it together and we can appoint it then. Perfect.
One
Great.
quick thing, though.
Yes.
I think we discussed this once before. I don't know whether you were here or not, but David or someone was quite adamant about the fact it is a law in this city that they have to be on leash.
I think
So
it was-
first thing we have to do is we have to get the council to change that, he was telling us.
Well, I think that would be part of the discussion, though. Rather than doing it here, we could just throw it into the discussion, and if that's what we recommend, then we go to council and say, we think we need to adjust hours and stuff like that. So that, I would say the subcommittee would actually be great for that.
Yeah, I think once we form the subcommittee, you guys can give the subcommittee directions on the items you want them to focus on, and then they can address it and then bring
come
it
back to
back
the
and you
group.
guys can figure out how to move that forward.
Well, again, thank you, and thanks to all staff. It's been a remarkable season or a year. I guess our year sort of figures out. So with that, we're going to adjourn our meeting, the Parks and Recs Commission, until September 23rd at 4:30 p.m. here at the large conference room. Thank you very much.